Good afternoon. This is Daniel from Legal DXR, and I'm here with Mr. Al Wheeler again. And I hope it's a great day in your jurisdiction. Today, we've gotten some questions from some of our readers and viewers and other people. And the first one is Mr. Wheeler. Actually, tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm Al Wheeler, attorney at law. I'm helping people out with their legal problems up here in Washington State. I'm also licensed in the state of Oklahoma, and I want to talk about what the Fourth Amendment is and privacy rights today, specifically how it relates to when you have an interaction with law enforcement when you're in your automobile.
All right. Well, and see, yeah, that's great. And he's got more than 20 years of experience, so he knows a lot. And again, I'm Daniel Resendez, an attorney here in Oklahoma City. So let's go ahead and get right into it. First of all, how does the Fourth Amendment apply to a traffic stop? Mr. Wheeler, take it away.
Well, as we know, the Fourth Amendment requires that if the police want to arrest you or stop you, they have to have probable cause or a warrant. Now, when they stop you in your car, obviously they don't have a warrant, so that falls under this thing in the law called a warrantless seizure. Okay, the Fourth Amendment has to have probable cause to stop you. What that means is if the officer views you speeding or weaving or throwing something out the window unlawfully, he has a reason to stop you. And once he does, he walks up to your window. If he sees something different from what he stopped you, then it opens the door for additional trouble.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so let's see. Well, do you want to explore this a little more, or do you want to go to the next one? It's along the lines. The next question.
Well, we've talked about how he has to have probable cause to stop you, so that would give him grounds to write you a ticket for speeding. But if he walks up to your window, and then he's within the plain view doctrine, which means if he sees contraband, a bottle in your car, or he sees blurry eyes, or he smells an odor of alcohol or marijuana, these are other factors that can then lead to additional investigation by the officer. But if he just has a hunch that something might be awry, that's not enough to have him search.
No,
so that might...
And that does go into the second one. Yeah, you're right. And the second one is, okay, if you get pulled over and you are asked to consent to a search, what does it mean for you to waive your rights to the Fourth Amendment? And what is your right to, decide whether or not the search occurs? Yeah, please, let's hear about that.
That's a great question, Daniel, because if the officer asks consent to search your vehicle, that means he doesn't have probable cause to search your vehicle, and he doesn't have a reason to go beyond the reason for the stop in the first place. So when he asks for consent, he's basically asking you to waive your Fourth Amendment rights to decline to consent. If the officer searches without your consent and doesn't have probable cause to search, any evidence can be excluded from being used against you in court, and that's called the exclusionary rule.
Okay, so basically, if you get pulled over, and if getting pulled over and a DUI, that's a crime. And in order for you to be convicted of that crime, you have to be proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. It's hard to prove guilty beyond a reasonable doubt if there's no evidence against you. So if I'm stating it correctly, the exclusionary rule would prevent that evidence from coming in, and therefore the evidence would not be used against you, and you would not be, there'd have to be some other evidence that is untainted that would be used to convict you. Is that?
You're exactly right,
Okay.
Daniel. So whatever evidence was received without your consent to search and without probable cause to search can be excluded. It doesn't mean your case gets thrown out, because your case could stand on other grounds. So if there's other grounds, such as the officer saw an open bottle in your car, then he doesn't need probable cause to go after that.
All right, because it was just in plain view. That's what they call
in order
it.
to stop you, then the officer does have to have probable cause to stop you, or your waiver of Fourth Amendment rights, which leads us to another question that we received from our audience.
Yeah, and this one's a really fun one. Are sobriety checkpoints legal? And I imagine we probably got this one because the New Year's approaching, Christmas is approaching, and these are pretty popular things, checkpoints that you see every night. So there's probably some correlation between the question that we received and the holidays. But yeah, what are your thoughts on sobriety checkpoints?
Well, with the holidays coming up, are sobriety checkpoints legal? The answer to that is it depends.
What a lawyer answer. What a lawyer answer. Can you explain that, please?
Well, it depends on, for instance, is what jurisdiction are you in? Because there's been United States Supreme Court cases say, yes, sobriety checkpoints are legal because of the balancing act between a governmental interest in having safe highways and the privacy rights of the individual. And there was a 1988 case that said the sobriety checkpoints are only a minimal intrusion on the motorist because 25 seconds is not a great privacy interest to give up.
So it's not really a stop. 25 seconds isn't really a seizure. It's just like an inconvenience.
That's right. It's just a minimal intrusion. However, there can be such an instance where the state constitution is more protective of individual privacy rights. And for instance, in the state of Washington, sobriety checkpoints are not permitted because the state constitution outweighs privacy rights, and therefore that's been struck down in that state. So it does depend on the jurisdiction that you're in.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, that's pretty much all that we have for today. Are there any other questions that I missed that you may have received?
Well, it all boils down to our overarching theme today, that it depends. And so when it does depend on so many factors, you need to get legal advice. So call Daniel Resendez, Legal DXR.
Thank you very much. Or, I'm also out of Oklahoma City in Oklahoma, so I can do Oklahoma. Mr. Wheeler here, he is also in Oklahoma City, and he's going to be going to Washington. But, hey, he could also help out, too. How can they get a hold of you?
So call me at my toll-free number, 888-811-2889. That's the same thing as 1-888-811-ATTORNEY, ATTY.
Very clever. And I'll make sure that I put that down in the description below, so that way you can reach Mr. Wheeler. You can also reach me, and that contact information will be available below. But thank you so much for coming on. Please be safe out there, and it never hurts to know a lawyer. And we really hope that you guys have a great day in your jurisdiction. Thank you.
Call a lawyer.